Hey, Jason here from Simply Swider. So, if your Brio water dispenser isn't dispensing water, is giving you error codes, or just seems completely dead, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Good news is most of these problems are way simpler than you'd think, and you can save yourself a bunch of money doing it yourself. Before we get started, if you run into any questions, jump into our Facebook group. Links in the description. We've got thousands of people helping each other fix their appliances, and I pop in there daily to help out. So the most common issue I see, and this happens probably 35% of the time, is air getting trapped in the water lines or that intake hose coming loose. Here's what happens. You change the water bottle, maybe bump that hose a little, and suddenly the vacuum seal is broken. The pump's running, you can hear it, but no water's coming out. I had this lady last week call me in a panic. Her empty bottle light was flashing, pump was going crazy, but nothing at the spouts. Turns out the hose just wasn't pushed all the way into the probe. Here's the fix. First, firmly push that hose into both the probe head and pump connection until you hear a click. Next, prime the system by holding down each water button for 2-3 minutes. Yes, that long to completely purge the air. You'll hear the pump working hard, and that's exactly what we want. Don't worry about the pump running. That's normal. This one's always a DIY fix, costs you nothing, and honestly saves you from feeling pretty silly when a repair guy charges you $100 to push a hose back in. Next up, and this is about 25% of the cases, that internal 12V water pump finally gives up. Now, here's the thing, these little diaphragm pumps work pretty hard, especially if you're running the thing dry when the bottle's empty. When it fails, the dispenser goes completely silent when you press the buttons, or you get this pathetic trickle of water. I remember this guy who called me convinced his whole control board was dead, unit was maybe 2 years old, brought it in, tested that little pump with a 12V power supply, and it was toast. The pump cost only $15. That's a huge savings over a $300 replacement. To install it, you'll need a Phillips head screwdriver and about 30 minutes. Safety first, always unplug the unit before starting. The wiring is simple, red wire to positive, black to negative, just like connecting a car battery. If you've ever installed a ceiling fan or changed an electrical outlet, you can handle this. If you're not comfortable with that stuff, this might be where you call someone like me. Here's one that throws people off. About 20% of the time, that cooling system works too well and freezes the whole reservoir solid. I've seen units where the water turns into a complete ice block, and obviously nothing's going to flow through that. This usually happens because the temperature sensor goes bad, the digital settings are too low, or the unit's too close to the wall and can't breathe properly. You'll know this is happening when the cold water button feels really hard to press or won't work at all, and if you can peek into the reservoir, you'll actually see ice. Here's the fix. First, turn off the cooling switch and unplug the unit completely. For light frost, wait 4-6 hours. For solid ice, plan on 12-24 hours. When you restart, set your cold water temperature to medium instead of the coldest setting. This prevents future freezing while still giving you refreshing cold water. Now, if this keeps happening, you're probably looking at a bad thermistor. That's the little sensor that tells the cooling system when to shut off. That's only a couple bucks for the part, but getting to it requires some appliance repair experience. Now, here's something that'll make you think your dispenser is completely fried, the F6 error code. This happens maybe 10% of the time, and what's going on is moisture got into the bottom cabinet and triggered that safety sensor. The unit starts beeping like crazy and shuts everything down. I had this customer convinced his control board was short circuited because of all the beeping and error codes. Turns out he'd spilled some water during a bottle change, and it collected right on that gray sensor in the base. Here's your step-by-step fix. First, unplug the unit and locate the small gray sensor in the bottom cabinet. It's usually near the back corner. Dry it thoroughly with a clean cloth, then use a hair dryer on cool setting for 2-3 minutes to remove any remaining moisture. Leave the cabinet door open for 1 full hour before plugging back in. If the sensor and base are completely dry and you're still getting the error, then you're looking at a failed sensor that needs replacing. Last thing we'll cover is button problems. This only happens about 5% of the time, but it's super frustrating when it does. What happens is those internal plastic levers that actually open the water valves get knocked out of their tracks, usually during shipping or if someone's been heavy-handed with the buttons. You'll notice one button feels loose or mushy and won't dispense water, while the other buttons work perfectly fine. Don't assume it's a clogged valve or pump problem. It's probably just a physical alignment issue. The fix is pretty simple. Remove those two rear screws on the top cover, lift the lid, and reseat those plastic levers back into their trays where they belong. This is definitely a DIY job if you've got a Phillips head screwdriver. The only time you'd need service is if those plastic tabs are actually broken off. The water pump. This is the workhorse of the whole system, and it's going to be your most common replacement. You're looking at somewhere between $9 and $19 for this little guy, usually a model GMBD 23130. Now, it's not repairable. When it goes, you replace it. The installation is pretty straightforward if you're comfortable with basic wiring, but here's where people mess up. Don't cut the wires too short when you're swapping it out because that makes future repairs a real pain. And make sure you get the 12V DC pump, not some generic 110V pump. I've seen people make that mistake. The thermostat, that's your temperature sensor, runs about 2 to 10 bucks. This little component tells the cooling system when to cycle on and off. When it fails, you get that frozen reservoir problem I talked about earlier. It's a small part, but getting to it can be tricky depending on your model. If you're not experienced with appliance repair, this might be worth having someone else handle. The float switch is your overfill protection, and it'll run you about $13 to $15. This is what tells the pump to stop when the reservoir is full. When it sticks, the pump just keeps running until water overflows all over your floor. You can test it with a multimeter to check continuity, but replacement requires getting inside the unit and understanding how the magnetic reed switch system works. The leak sensor is actually your cheapest fix, usually $0 because you're just drying it out with a cloth. These gray sensors in the bottom cabinet are pretty reliable, but they'll shut everything down the moment they detect moisture. High humidity environments can sometimes trigger false alarms, but most of the time it's just water from bottle changes or condensation that needs to be dried out. All right, let's talk about what you're looking at money-wise if you do need to replace some parts. Here's the thing about these dispensers. The parts are dirt cheap compared to buying a whole new unit, but a lot of folks don't realize that and end up spending 300 bucks on a new dispenser when a $15 part would have fixed it. I'm going to break down the main components that fail and what they actually cost. Now, you can see right there on your screen the most common Brio models that run into these problems. You'll probably spot your own unit somewhere in that list. The 520 series has some specific issues with reservoir cap seals. You got to hear that click when you put the cap back on. The Moderna models are really sensitive to humidity and love to throw F6 and F7 errors. Bottom load units across the board have that pump noise issue where the motor vibration hits the rubber bracket. And if you've got a point of use model, those need a specific flush procedure to clear airlocks. That's your complete Brio repair guide. Here's your troubleshooting checklist. Step 1, check for loose hoses and prime the system, 5 minutes free. Step 2, test the pump by listening for motor sounds, $15 if replacement needed. Step 3, look for ice in the reservoir and adjust temperature settings, free fix for 24-hour wait. Step 4, check for F6 error and dry the leak sensor, free 1 hour. Step 5, examine button alignment and reseat plastic levers, free 10 minutes. Follow this order and you'll solve 95% of problems for under $20. Most of the time, you're dealing with a $15 part instead of a $300 replacement. Early warning signs to watch for: unusual vibrating or loud noises usually mean that pump's getting ready to go. And here's some free prevention advice. Give your unit at least 8 inches of space from the wall so it can breathe, and don't turn on those heating and cooling switches until the tanks have actually filled with water. If you guys know someone who's having appliance troubles, please send them the link to this video or a link to my channel where I have tons of other videos showing how to fix pretty common issues with appliances, sometimes for free or as little cost as possible. It sure beats having a repairman come out and spending several hundred for them to fix it when it could be something so simple. If this helped you get your water dispenser working again, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know which fix worked for you. Really helps other people with the same problem. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get this out to more folks who need to save some time and money. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.